Yeah, yeah. Age, pick up the pace, everyone age, find no age. Indeed, I am breathing my effort in vain. The needle my veins, I'll fall asleep.
Hey guys, CS67 here, and welcome to my first video in my series called Nades for Silvers. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the different types of nades and why each nade is important and where it's used. So for most scenarios, the order of importance for nades that you're going to be using is first smokes, then flashes, then either a Molotov or a HE nade, depending on your situation, and then of course decoys last. So for smokes, the main purpose of a smoke is to basically create a penetrable wall that blocks off sight between you and your enemies. So okay, that's what kind of stuff. So if you throw a smoke there, which is the jungle smoke, it basically blocks off, and you're a terrorist that wants to come out onto the A side, it blocks off the view of anyone in the jungle or connector area from seeing onto A side, and it gives you free passage to run onto the side. Of course, you can get sprayed through the smoke, but that you rarely get killed. You rarely ever get killed by that. So since you have 5 people on your team and all of them can buy smokes, usually if they have the money, you can basically wall off an entire site if you're a terrorist with the smoke. So like on Mirage for A site, the standard setup is 1 smoke CT, 1 jungle smoke, and 1 stair smoke. And as a terrorist, this allows you to run on a site and only be challenged by spots on site such as sandwich, under palace, double box, and triple. And it's pretty easy to do a 5v2 or often a 5v1 or even a 5v0 in these scenarios. You can use even more nades such as Molotovs to clear these positions. In a normal scenario, you have at most 3 people on 1 bomb site, and often the players are going to be split up between the outside of the site, meaning like on Mirage, for example, jungle, connector, stairs, and CT, and the inside of the site. So if you throw those smokes to block off the CT's access to the site, then that, in the worst case scenario, is you're taking a 5v2 aim duel, which should almost always turn out in your favor, and then you can get the bomb down for a trade or 2, and then the CTs have to retake. For counter terrorists, smokes are useful because you can throw a smoke into a choke point where the terrorists usually come out, and it's almost impossible for the terrorists to push through the smoke and then kill you if you're watching it. Because usually when you come out of A ramp normally, gotta wait for the smoke. Usually when you come out A ramp normally, you're gonna be checking each angle, like top stairs, then sandwich, bottom stairs, triple, and then CT, and then double, and then under palace / head glitch area. But like when you're smoked off, like here, as a terrorist, you can't really do that. You just have to run out and check everything at once, and you're barely ever going to be able to like pre-aim an angle perfectly coming out of smoke. So as a counter terrorist, if a terrorist pushes through a smoke, then it's very easy to get a kill on them. Alright, next up on the list is flashes. For terrorists, the main use of flashes is pop flashing to entry. So usually there will be a counter terrorist watching angle, like say there's a counter terrorist sitting CT or triple or head glitch. As a terrorist, in order to give you a better advantage when you're peeking out of an angle, what you want to do is you want to throw a flash such that before going more in depth about pop flashes, you basically want to throw a flash such that it lands behind you and that the counter terrorist won't have much time to react and will get blinded by it. As a result, they'll either be out in the open and they can't see, which means they'll be an easy target for you and they won't be able to hit you as well. Or, worst case scenario, they get flashed by it and they have to hide behind their cover for a while. It allows you to come out of the angle and get onto the site or take a better position or more forward position. For counter terrorists, usually flashes are used to delay the terrorist push. So if terrorists start coming out of A ramp and palace, and you're a counter terrorist and you're stuck behind somewhere, what you can do is you basically just want to flash the terrorist and make them not able to kill you or your teammates defending the site until your teammates can rotate to help you out. One of the biggest mistakes I see in low elo matchmaking is the improper use of flashbangs. Oftentimes I see players throwing their flashbangs at the enemy. This is very bad for a few reasons. First, to fully understand why this is a terrible technique, you need to understand how flashbangs work. The way flashbangs work in terms of blinding people is basically if they're in your line of sight when they pop, even if they're farther away, they blind you. Even if they're right touching you and you're looking away from them, they barely blind you at all. So because of this, it is most important to throw your flashbangs exactly where your enemies are looking and where you and your teammates are not looking. Often, this will mean basically behind where you and your teammates will be peeking rather than at your enemy. So if I throw a flashbang like this, if I think there's somebody behind triple, I can't flash him just by throwing the flashbang at triple. That'll blind me a bit. If I want to peek around this corner to peek triple and CT and such, what I want to do is like, I want to throw the flash around the corner such that it'll basically pop around the corner, but when I come around the corner, it pops behind me, so I'm not really blinded. So if I flash like that and then come around the corner, I'm barely blinded. I can basically instantaneously come back to full vision and see full vision to be able to see everyone on the site. If the counter terrorists are watching ramp and they get flashed by that, then it's a lot worse for them because they're looking directly at the flash. Another example of a good flash is say this neat pop flash at stairs. Basically, it pop flashes not in your line of sight and in the enemy's line of sight if there's somebody like ramp or palace. So it works really nicely because it is in the enemy's line of sight and not yours. Hopefully you tell your teammates that you're pop flashing because communication is very important in CSGO beyond playing with your teammates. And let them know that you're flashing so they can look away from it. Oh, also, if you see a flash like fly into your view, don't just stare at it, because if you stare at it, that's what happens. If you see it fly into your view, look away and then look back, because oftentimes if you look away and then look back, let's say you see a flash fly around a ramp and you're sitting right here. If you see it fly out, then you can look away and look back. And oftentimes players will peek immediately after flashing because they just assume that the enemy's been flashed. So they like to push out and then you can aim duel them. For the next most important grenade, it honestly depends on your role. If you're like supporting more, and also the map specific strat you're running. So like, if you're going on to A site, the maximum amount of Molotovs that you probably need is like, realistically, worst case scenario, one for sandwich, one for triple, one for under palace, one for firebox. That's like really worst case scenario. You honestly never need that many, and it's like tedious to do that many. But like, the point of a Molotov as a terrorist is to flush a counter terrorist out of a sort of like a cubby position. So like, if the counter terrorist is like sitting under palace just like here, you can't really smoke them out, because if you smoke them, you're just gonna sit there and wait until the smoke fades. And then once the smoke fades, your back's probably gonna be turned towards them. They're just gonna kill you. So what you wanna do is, so like say the under palace position, as a terrorist what you wanna do is you wanna molly it. But once you molly it, any counter terrorist in that position is forced to run out. And then one of your teammates who's watching the position can kill them as soon as they have to run out. This works for any position that's like sort of a cubby, like sandwich, firebox, the area behind triple. If you molly those positions, any counter terrorist standing there will have to either run out or die, basically. But if you're not supporting, then Molotovs aren't really going to be that useful, because your teammates who have Molotovs probably already use them and to flush the CTs out of the spots. And your job is to either kill the terrorists or the CTs that have to run out, or to like follow up later. Um, Basically, if you're not one of the Ts that are mauling spots out, then it's better for you to use a frag nade or a HE nade, because if you're not one of the terrorists that are initially molotoving a spot, then basically after that you're either taking the site or defending it from a retake. And in the scenario of taking a site, um, your teammates have already done the job of mauling the cubbies, so basically you just need to get the kills. Of course, grenades won't help with that, so you're just gonna have to shoot them. In the other scenario where you're defending against a retake, say like you're playing somewhere on site and a counter-terrorist is retaking here, and you damage them all, and you know that you damaged them, what you usually do, instead of molotoving them, because they can escape from it, you usually just want to HE nade them to bring their health down to 0 instantly. In that case, an HE nade is much better than a molotov to finish an enemy off. For counter-terrorists, it's also very dependent on the enemy's economical situation. Usually, if the enemy is better off economically than you, especially if you're ecoing or something, then usually the frag nade is better, because a lot of times on CT side when you're poor and you know the terrorists have money, what a lot of people will do is they like nade stack, so they have 2 or 3 counter terrorists run and throw a grenade at a single choke point. And if like 2 or 3 grenades hit a single terrorist that happen to be near that choke point, then they're very likely going to die. On the other hand, if you're a counter-terrorist and you have a lot of money, then you can probably afford the $600 incendiary nade. And if you believe that the terrorists are going to be rushing something because they're poor, then often one person defending a site will Molotov it immediately, and then the next person will be ready to re-molly that site or the choke point as soon as the first person's molly runs out. This is more useful on sites that have a single choke point that can be rushed, such as B-apps on Mirage. So as a CT, you probably want to be mollying the spot off. So then either the terrorists will have to wait in there, and in some scenarios, like you might have a player cat or something that can hear that like all the terrorists are in apps and they can ask for a rotate, or the terrorists will push through the Molotov and they'll be heavily damaged, which will make it very easy for you to clean up kills. The last grenade type is a decoy grenade. Basically, the primary purpose of a decoy grenade is a fake flash. So like if you can't really afford a real flash, or for whatever reason you want to buy a third flashbang for whatever reason, then you can use a decoy grenade as fake flash. So like, let's say if I can only afford one flashbang and I have like 100 or 50 or $150 left, and I can buy a decoy. And what I can do is I can first, like if I'm playing here and I know there's terrorist snaps, I can first throw my decoy, and either they'll look away from it or be like, oh, it's a decoy. And then if they look away, then it won't pop and they'll turn back, and then I can throw my real flash and that'll more likely blind them. And then they'll be blinded. This is the same for both CT and T sides. So yeah, that's the basics of nades, why to use them and how to use them. I hope this gives you more of an understanding of why nades are very important, even though they're basically the price of a pistol or something like that. And I hope you start using nades more in the future and learn how to actually use them. And thanks for watching.